did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
Me.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Or what's inside. You suck. Finally, we're going to reveal the... Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Comics... veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
Tonight's episode, The Thrill Killers, Part 1.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
She cooks nothing but chuck wagons, stew, and her name is Minerva. Ouch. She's the flower of the devoured coach.
Every once in a while, I've got to work in the that Wild Wild West opening because, you know, you pull a knife on me, try to stab me in the back. I don't care if you're a woman in a bonnet or some dude in a card game. You're getting laid out, and there it is. Welcome, everybody. You are watching, as far as I know, you're watching Aaron Live. It's what is it? It's Sunday. It's March 17th, 2024, which means I am 60 years old. Wow. I need to trim this. Anyway, it's just me flying solo today. Shelley has got the achy breakies and some joint pain, and so she's just like, I'm not up for it today, but she will return, and when she does, it'll be spectacular. But not to say that this show is not going to be spectacular, because we've got some stuff. Got some stuff planned up, and when I say we, I mean me. But hopefully, you will stick around to enjoy all the effort that I put into putting this show together. Let's see what's going on in the chat here before we get too far into this craziness. I think you should also note that very rare occasions you will see me without like double clothing, because I'm usually freezing to death. But it's actually warm today. It's like 74 degrees, and since this studio is upstairs, it's a little bit warmer. So yeah, I'm nice and toasty. Took the dog for a walk earlier today. Got a little exercise in. Did my push-ups. Except for this gut down here, which you can't see. I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now. So I'm all about fitness. I used to be all about fitness. And then came the middle-aged years. And then it wasn't so much about fitness. And now I'm thinking, as I'm getting into the more advanced stage of my life and career, I'm thinking maybe I should start looking at that fitness thing again. So we'll see. We'll see how long my motivation lasts to continue exercising. Anyway, so let's see. Mark Pengrin is here. Now, Mark Pengrin claims that he was first. And I know for a fact he was, because that post showed up last night, right when I started this whole or at least put the stream together. And it stayed there. Normally they drop out for some reason, but it's still there. So Mark, you are first in here today. And you know what you get for that? You get absolutely nothing but my thanks and gratitude and appreciation for participating in the show. Daniel Russell's second. You don't really get anything for that either. In fact, you get less than you get for the first. And that's really bad because you don't get anything for the first either. Corum's here. He wants to know who's on third, and that would be you. Sequential Artist. No, who's on first? What's on second? And I don't know is on third. Of course, you're talking about the hilarious, I almost said Laurel and Hardy, but Abbott and Costello bit. And actually is funny. But I'll tell you what isn't funny is Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. That is not funny. Just saying. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is almost always here. Howler 6480 has made it. Barbara Paulson, thanks for joining us, Barbara. She says, "Hail, Aaron, looking forward to y'all." Well, looking forward to you. Randy Howell, I'm 8th, made the top 10. Excellent. Randy Howell's all the way from Canada, by the way. Dan the Pizza Man Genovese is here. Toshiro, he says, Dark Pyramid of Alaska, definitely a super villain lair. Yeah, I've got to spread out my not finding Bigfoot segment as we're running low on Bigfoot videos. In fact, they're becoming non-existent, kind of like Bigfoot. So I did find some other stuff that I thought was interesting that we're going to go over later in the show. Stippling Vaughn is here. Citizen Ronan, of course, is here. Repairman Jack. H is for Repairman Jack's trying to get a cheap cannonball and it's not going to work. H is for Heretic. Batmanual has finished the big gulp. Now he must watch the bushes. I don't know what that means. Heat Miser is here. The Geek Easy. Kellraiser. Paul Taylor, our resident biologist all the way from Canada, is joining us. Let's see here. Paul Taylor, the Dark Pyramid of Alaska. What's that? An iceberg at night? We'll find out exactly what it is or what it allegedly is. Repairman Jack, already said that. Okay, Fox Mulder is here. Ryo Stew is here. Bretsky the Great, thanks for joining us. Goody Two Shoes has joined us. I thought I was the Goody Two Shoes around here, but no. Goody Two Shoes is indeed in the chat. Lord Hinson Comics Gator is here. And let's see. That character was with the hair was from Flintstones, wasn't he? Yeah, that was weirdly gruesome. He's talking about the intro when I said guest starring strangeness, because there's a lot of strangeness on this show this week. Bigfoot lives in the Alaska Pyramid. Now we're getting someplace. Now we're connecting the dots. I like that. Eric Boyd, thank you for that. Henry Thrun is here. Henry, of course, has a wrench. And let's see here. Is it Thrun or Thrun? I want to say Thrun. But it could be Henry Thrun. Who am I to judge? Who am I to pronounce? Let's see here. Yeah, let's see. Same. I already mentioned you guys. Oh, there's the Geek Avenger. The still young Lopresti, depending on who I'm sitting next to. When I'm sitting next to Graham and Art, I'm very young. Gary Martin, youthful. Next to some other guys, feeling a little bit old. Senior Goon is here. Senior Goon. Thank you for joining us, Senior Goon. Ms. Stippling is here. Where is your green? Oh, yeah, today's St. Patty's Day, isn't it? I don't celebrate drinking holidays because I don't drink, and I'm not Irish. So the heck with you. That's what I'm saying. Zombie Chow's here. Jughead Grayson is here. Gnomski is here. When you're in school and you didn't wear green, everybody would pinch you and they thought it was funny until someone got in a fight and then it wasn't so funny anymore. Let's see. Multi-layered stories are good, says Paul Taylor. So multi-layered clothing, multi-layered doesn't really apply to clothing. Okay. Look at Henry is saying, I just got done lifting and then running for 20 minutes. Well, excuse me for not being as fit as you are, Henry. Let's see here. LE the Broken until the Broken 3. says kick Aaron. Yeah, well, how about if we kick you? Get out of here with that. Jeremy Burt says here, Cole King says it's always good to see a brother. I hope he's talking to me. Thank you. It's good to be seen. Good to see you guys in the chat. Nicola's is here. Grifter is joining us. Thank you. Richie Dupe, of course, is here. Jeremy Burt's already said that, but I'll say it again. And let's see. Did we get everybody covered here? Angela Curry. There's Angela. Richie Dupe. Did I say Richie Dupe? I don't know. Angela's here. Richie Dupe is here. The Geek Avenger. I made a toast to two friends that died at way younger age than I am at the moment. God bless you, Big Bill Cooper and Andy Foster. Okay. Paul Taylor says, you don't have to be Irish. He's not. To enjoy Irish culture and beautiful Irish women. Well, okay. I'll go along with that. Kevin Thomas is here. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. All right, everybody. We are right now almost 200 strong. It's amazing when I put the link out on X. I was going to say Twitter, X. How the show grows so quickly. All righty, let's do the essential things that make this show what it is, and that is, first of all, hit the like and subscribe, please. I need you to do it. And so does Frankenstein. So please, I appreciate it very much if you guys would be so kind. I am sick and tired of looking at Graham's channel and Art's channel, and they have more subs than me. And I'm like, no, it is a competition, and I must get more subs than them. Help me to attain that goal. Anyway, so that's all I got for today. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining me. No, that's not true. I've got so much stuff, but you can't really go forward with a show without the proper caloric intake, which is probably not part of my fitness plan. But we're going to do it anyway.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
I got one of these left. It's prosciutto and mozzarella rolls. Just one. These are like my new go-to. They're kind of expensive though, And I'm blaming Stippling Vaughn on this because he sent me for my birthday. He sent me a card for Trader Joe's, and I went in there and saw these. They had individually wrapped ones. This one I just got at the regular old store, but they had individually wrapped ones. And I just bought a handful of them. And I've had them before, but this kind of got me re-hooked on them. So got some nice prosciutto wrapped in mozzarella. And throw that in the garbage. Throw that in my mouth. Oh, so good. And these aren't as good as the Trader Joe's ones, but they're still pretty good. Okay. While we're doing that, I don't think it would be a bad choice to look at Frazetta of the day. Now, as you guys the people that joined me last week, we had Jimmy Reyes came on kind of late, was a surprise guest, I guess. So we had a good time and everything, but I was unable to get to everything that I had planned because I wasn't planning on having a guest. And then Jimmy's like, hey, can I come on? I'm like, sure, Jimmy, why not? And so I didn't get to a couple things. So you'll notice that the supervillain thing was in last week's intro, and it's in this week's intro because we're going to do it this week. And also, you'll notice that this week's episode is Thrill Killer Part 2. Last week was Thrill Killer Part... Let me try that again. Last week was Thrill Killer Part 2. This week is Thrill Killer Part 1. So I'm doing them backwards, which doesn't make any sense either. But for this show, it actually makes perfect sense. So anyway, we also didn't look at the Frazetta image of the day, which we're going to look at right now because we're looking at all of Frazetta's Conan paperbacks right now before we move on to other things that, of course, Frazetta did, and he did a lot. So let's take a look at yet another, but very popular, and we'll discuss Frazetta Conan piece with Frazetta's image of the day. Watch your monitors, please. There you go. And as I was watching that video, did that look like a repaint? Frazetta was notorious for going in and retouching up his old paintings. And the first one that was on the book cover made me think, that doesn't look exactly like, now it could have been just the way it reproduced. And I wasn't looking that close. And I should go back and look at it again. Because that was 1974. The first Conan book, I think, came out in 66. So it makes me think that, I mean, yeah, I could go check my books back there because I've got it. But that would require effort. And I'd rather just make stuff up. But anyway, so I'm wondering if he originally painted that in like 66 or 67, then went back and kind of repainted it in 74. Very interesting. Should I go look? It's tempting me. I'm going to look. Let's see here. Oh. No. No, that's not it. No. 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 Apparently that's the one Conan book I don't have. But anyway, that's a very iconic painting. And I think that painting sold recently for $5 million or some ridiculous amount of money like that. I think it actually surpassed the Egyptian Queen painting, which was Frazetta's record at 5.4 million or something at auction, but that was a few years ago. And I think that Conan painting that we just showed ended up selling for more than that. Again, I could have checked, but that would require effort. My whole point is that's not my favorite Frazetta painting. It's one of the more iconic Frazetta images, but it's not really high on my list of Frazetta favorites. Now I could sit there and, do a trash cast on Frazetta, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to do that. But I'll just suffice to say that, there's some Frazetta paintings that are just, mind-numbingly great. And there's other ones that I'm like, it was okay. That was better than okay, but still, I don't know. I don't know what it is about that one. I think that the girl down at his legs, I kind of feel like he put a lot of effort into that first 3/4 of Conan and then sort of let it all sort of fade to messiness. And Frazetta, of course, was great at focusing your eye on where you wanted you to look and then would not put the detail in around the areas where you really weren't supposed to be focused anyway. But I kind of felt like that girl could have been cleaner than how he painted her. And so I don't know. What do I know? I'm just an artist, just a comic book artist. Kevin Thomas says, did anybody else pick up the new Savage Swords from Titan? I don't have Savage. Do I have Savage Sword? I don't think I do. Maybe I do. I picked up the first issue of Conan. Yeah, I don't think I have the Savage Sword. Interestingly enough, they came up and talked to me. Titan did. Well, not Titan, but the Titan is actually publishing and distributing, but they're not creatively in control of the property, the books. The Conan people are, and they've got their own team. And I was approached by them. I did not go to them. They came to me at San Diego and said, "Hey, we want you to do some covers for us." And I said, "That's great. I'd love to. I love Conan. I'd love to." So I got in touch. There was two people there. There was a guy that was in charge of the editorial contract or content, and then there was a lady who was in charge of contracts and all that kind of stuff and securing the talent or whatever. So I filled out all the paperwork, did all the stuff, got a page rate, everything was agreed upon, and then never heard from him again. I emailed the editor, nothing. So you can only formulate in your mind why suddenly, after coming to me to see about doing covers or something, they don't talk to me anymore. Can't imagine what the mystery could be, but you may fill in your own blanks on that. So I was really hopeful to be kind of a part of that, just do like a cover here and there, just so I could do some Conan stuff. And apparently it is not to be. Politics are a difficult thing sometimes. Paul Taylor, they went broke. Not because of me. Yeah, Mark's saying, okay, so it is actually magazine size. It's not comic book size, it's magazine size. Oh, God, that makes me want to get it even more. Of course, you guys know I've been talking about doing a Savage Tales magazine myself. Savage Tales type magazine. Obviously, I wouldn't call it Savage Tales. And so it's still, I'm trying to figure out how to squeeze it in between, Wraith of God 3 and Wraith of God 4 or something like that. I don't know. But I'm working on it. Oh, Kevin Thomas says there's also a Solomon Kane backup feature. Oh, I love Solomon Kane. Marby Dog says, who knew Conan was a progressive? Who knew? Now I can't verify without a shadow of a doubt why they suddenly were ghosting me, but I'm only, of course, speculating. Senior Goon says, based on your latest Fire and Ice art, you would have done an awesome Conan book. Thank you so much. I've actually done Conan stories. Of course, you guys all know that I did Conan, Wonder Woman Conan through DC 6 years ago now. But I also did a solo Conan story in Dark Horse Presents, like 27 or something, where I did the cover. And I also did an 8-page story that Matt Banning, also known as Bat, he inked it. I wrote it. And shocker, has a big troll monster in it. I was pretty happy with that story. So I have done some Conan stuff, and I've written some Conan stuff. But, of course, the thing with Conan is you can write any sort of barbarian story, and you could technically be a Conan story. You just don't call him Conan, and, there's really not that much difference. But I don't know, man. I'm jonesing, as they say, to do something like this. Oh, there's nudie stuff there. I better be careful here. I don't want to get, black and white Khazar story here. Excuse me. I thought it was interesting that I want to say after issue 5 of Savage Tales, Conan was no longer in here. It was Khazar sort of took over, and what other backup characters they would put in here. There's Shanna the She-Devil story in there. Blood Purge. There it is. This was a great magazine. There. Kull and the Barbarians. Got those. So you had a King Cole story, you had a Solomon Kane story, and then you had a Red Sonja story, I think, in this magazine. It's pretty awesome. Oh, Ross Andrew and Vinnie Coletto. He must have been thrilled when Vinnie Coletto said, oh, good, Vinnie's going to inking me. But anyway, I don't know. I just thought these were cool when I was a kid. I used to love these. The art was usually a little bit better, higher grade, and stories were more adult. They weren't, all that spicy, but, more adult than you get in a comic book. Paul Taylor says, was that the guy in the Savage Land? Yes. Khazar is he's kind of Tarzan of the Savage Land. He's a ripoff of Tarzan. And Kevin Plunder is his name. And he's from a rich family. At least that's what his heritage is, just like Tarzan. And so he's basically a Tarzan ripoff that Marvel created. Actually, way back in the 40s, he's actually a Golden Age character. And, everybody's ripping everybody else off, right? Come on, let's admit it. So, oh, there you go. Daniel Russell, Mammoth, the Arctic Barbarian. I do have an Arctic Barbarian story, but it's a chick. I actually have a print. Where is that? I don't know. It's not laying around. It's way over there, and I'm not going to. That would require effort again. Yeah, there you go. Good pirate name, Kevin Plunder. Yeah, I didn't mean to hit that. Let's see here. Okay, so is that George Valdez or Jorge Valdez? Love your work, Aaron. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very, very much. Mark Pengrin, he has a saber-tooth tiger and fights dinosaurs, so he's totally different. Yeah, it's completely different. Anyway, so, we'll see as things progress. We shall see if I can throw together this Savage Tales magazine. Of course, the problem is I would do the lead story and then I would have some backups in it, right? So then you're like hoping everybody, then I have to be an editor, right, for everybody else. It's kind of like hoping people get their stuff done on time, and I'm getting a headache already. But I really want to do it, so that means I'll probably figure out a way to do it sooner than later. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Would you ever work, Mr. Valdez says, would you ever work on doing your own rendition of Kull? I love what you are doing with science fiction. Thank you. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm a huge King Kull fan, huge. I don't like Kull the Barbarian because he's essentially just Conan, right? But when he's King Kull, it's a different thing. And I've said this before, I enjoy the character bit that he's this barbarian, and yet at the same time, he's king of this nation, and he has to be a responsible king, and yet he's still a barbarian, and he's kind of trying to move back and forth between being regal and being barbarian-like. And I always thought that was a really great sort of dichotomy that he was faced with, which made him more interesting to me than Conan just zipping around and, robbing and pillaging and hooking up with Red Sonja, or at least trying to. I don't know why Conan was more popular than Kull, at least in the comics. I mean, Conan, of course, there's much more Conan material than King Kull, and it was much more readily available, more promoted than Kull or Solomon Kane or these other characters. But Kull to me was always just a more interesting character. That's right. I am Italian and everything is negotiable. So we shall see what happens. Okay, so here's the thing. What do I want to do first? I don't even know what I want to do first. It shouldn't be that hard, right? Just pick something and go with it. Because I made you guys wait so long, like an extra week, I think what we'll do is we'll go forward with this. Here's the thing. I made this list. I went back and forth. Obviously, there's a lot of great villains, and I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm not 100% certain, but I kind of think maybe I picked these because I enjoy drawing them the most. And so, but I guess that's a legit criteria, right? But if I wasn't an artist, would I pick the same 5? I don't know. But I think so. But how could I know? Because I'm not that person. I am this person, and this person went with these 5. And you guys can say what you will, and I'm sure you will say as we go down the list. Anyway, let's enough of the rhetoric. Let's get to the imagery here. Number 5 on my list of top comic book villains. Now, this may come as a shock to some of you. I had to educate Jimmy Reyes last week on this character. And here we go. It's Zemu, the Living Titan. Now, some of you remember from last week that I did a little thing on this a toy show that I went to. And I picked up this Zemu action figure, right? And you're saying, well, Aaron, you picked up the Zemu action figure to support your top 5 pick of Zemu. But no, I picked up the action figure because Zemu is in my top 5 of villains. Why? He's big, he's Sasquatchy, and he has a metal helmet. No, that's not why. I just don't know why I love this stupid character so much, but I do. And if they did Zemu, the Living series, I'd be the guy to draw it. And I wouldn't even hesitate. In fact, here's a funny story for you. Back in my Marvel days, that would be pre-DC, post-cross-gen, they were doing this MODOK series, right? And I remember having this conversation with Mike Martz, who was the X-Men editor at the time. And they were in a big editorial meeting. And they were looking for an artist to draw this 6-issue MODOK miniseries. And Mike Martz suggested me. And one of the editor, I don't know who it was, that was in charge of this MODOK miniseries said, Aaron Lopresti is not going to want to draw a MODOK miniseries. And Mike Martz says, you'd be surprised. Now, they never came to me with it because I think I was too expensive for what their budget was on the book and how much they actually thought they would make by doing it. But if someone had offered it to me, I probably would have done it. Because if those of you who read my Ms. Marvel run will know that MODOK was one of the villains in there, and that was because I wanted to draw him. So all that to say this, weird, nonsensical, goofy, monstrous villains are generally what appeals to me, and Zemu, the Living Titan, fits the bill, baby. So there it is. Zemu is my number 5. Geek Easy, being very clever, says this is a picture of Hulk versus Hulk. And he's actually right, because if you tuned in last week, you would have learned that Zemu was originally called the Hulk back in 1961 until they came out with the Hulk that we all know and love, the Green Hulk. Actually, he was gray, and then they turned him green. And so then the Hulk then later became Zemu, the Living Titan, but not till much later when they finally used him in like Defenders, like in 1972-ish. I don't think he was used prior to that. He was in Journey into Mystery for a couple issues as the Hulk, just as a big monster, prior to all the superhero stuff that Marvel did. And then he didn't show up again in 10 years later until he became a Defenders / Hulk villain. So there you go. But Zemu is my number 5. Passmaster Dan is saying Zaz. Zaz is that electrical monster, isn't he? Yeah. Not as good as Zemu. Dune Ringgill says Zemu is an interesting pick. Indeed, it is. It's very interesting. I'm just fascinated by it. But here's number 4. Now, when you start getting into Batman villains, it's kind of hard to pick a fave because he has a great rogues gallery. Batman has a fantastic rogues gallery. Him and Spider-Man, like the 2 best rogues gallery of any characters. The Joker, I love the Joker. Killer Croc. I like Killer Croc if I'm drawing him. It depends. Some people, I think have done well. Other people not as well with Killer Croc. Mr. Freeze I like. I mean, there's a lot of villains I like, but we got to go top 5 here, right? So I'm going with Bruce Timm's Clayface. And this would be Clayface 3, I think, right? Or is it Clayface 4? How many Clayfaces are there? But this is the one I like. And I think it's probably fairly obvious why I like it. But again, big, gloppy, huge, monstrous villain. Oh, wait a minute, I'm getting schooled here. No, Zaz is a Batman villain. He's a serial killer who scars himself with every kill. Yeah, I drew him actually. I couldn't remember his name was Zaz. I'm thinking of Zax or something like that as the electrical monster that fought Hulk. I don't know. I remember the Mud Pack. If you're talking about the one that goes way back to when Norm Brayfogle drew it, they had like this giant size or king size issue of Batman. Didn't they? It was an annual or something that had like the original Clayface, then Clayface 2, then Clayface 3, and I don't know. Like I said, I think this is Clayface 3 or 4. I don't know. I don't know. There it is. Paul Taylor saying, I was just thinking about Zach when you said Zaz, Aaron. See? Paul, I think you misspelled everybody's name, including my own in that little thing right there. Zax is a Hulk villain. First appeared in Hulk 166. Henry Bemis all the way from Oregon, filling us in on the details. But anyway, I've got an action figure of this. I don't know. This is exactly the kind of villain when I was a kid that I would have just like gravitated to and said, this is awesome. So now if Bruce Timm had never redesigned him to look like this, I wouldn't have gone for Clayface. I might have gone for the Joker. Probably. Man-Thing's not a villain, so I can't count him. But I've drawn the Joker. I like have a couple of go-tos, right? When I'm just like, I'm sitting around, what am I going to draw? Maybe I'm going to draw the Thing from Fantastic Four, Man-Thing, possibly Howard the Duck, or the Joker. Those are like, the Joker, though, did not become my favorite until The Killing Joke, until Brian Bolland drew him. And I think that's the first time I ever thought that he was drawn in a way that was interesting to me. But I'm going with Clayface. And we're going to stick to my guns on that one. Kevin Thomas says, rest in peace to Brayfogle, my second favorite Batman artist after Aparo. Yeah, Norm was an interesting cat. He was a really nice guy, but he was very interesting. Had some very interesting metaphysical ideas, let's say. I had some really weird conversations with him a couple of times. Here we go. Number 3. The theme of creepy ugliness continues with everybody's favorite Nazi, Captain America and the Red Skull. Look at that. That's by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Again, monster face, skull face, whatever. I think we're seeing a pattern here. I really am. And the skull is fun to draw too. And the thing about this Red Skull is you can draw him really poorly if you're not careful. Or you can draw him really, really cool if you are careful. So kind of finding that, it's kind of like Man-Thing. Man-Thing you can draw poorly or you can draw him really, really cool. I think Arthur Adams draws Man-Thing the best. And then I would have to nominate myself for second best. Although Michael Golden's Man-Thing, don't clip that, is really good too. Let's see. Jorge's saying Punisher's Jigsaw would be a fun draw. Yes, he would. There's a lot. I mean, I like dumb characters like Electro and things like that too. So it's not. There's a lot of lame villains, but I like Sandman. I like the original Vulture Why? Because he's a bold, old guy with a big nose. Hello. But even as a kid, I liked the Vulture. The old one. I didn't like the new one. I like the old one because he was just craggy and he was more interesting looking. Deathstroke the Terminator, Sabretooth, Solomon Grundy. I drew a Solomon Grundy one-shot with Art Taber did the inking on that. See, people are agreeing with me. Now, Custom God, someone must have insulted him here. He says Electro isn't dumb. I never said he was. Did someone in the chat say Electro was dumb? Did I say he was dumb? I said I liked a lot of dumb characters after I talked to Electro. Come on, he has a big star on his face, but I still love him. I just love him. So I guess you could say he's dumb but cool at the same time. Is that even possible? I don't know. All right, so there's my there's the three of my top five. Let's see what's number 2. Yeah, I think I sort of gave this one away. I probably should have saved the MODOK story for when this art actually came up. But yeah, I saw the MODOK miniseries come out. I remember this, and I was like, I think I was talking to Mike Martz, and I said, "Oh man, I wish they contacted me to draw it or something." And he was like, "Oh, I recommended you." And then he told me the story, but like I said, they couldn't afford me. So, and I want to say that, who's the guy that does the Goon? Eric, no, what's his name? Powell. Eric Powell, I think, did the covers for this miniseries. So that means I would have been doing the interiors and Eric Powell would have got to do the covers, which I would have been pissed about. Not that I love Eric Powell's stuff, don't get me wrong, but, I want to do my own covers, just, and that was always sort of it was something that kind of stuck in my craw and was always a negotiating point for me. It was like, you want me to draw this? I'm doing the covers. Sometimes it worked. Most of the time, though, when it didn't work, it was because they'd already hired someone to do the covers, and the covers were like done already, and I hadn't even been hired to do the interiors. So, but anyway, this is a David Finch drawing. I don't know. Is this from a cover or something? It was pretty cool. Looks like Hulk is grabbing MODOK right in the junk, if he's got any. He's crushing his junk, it looks like. Ouch. Look at that. I love his little gremlin face, or his big gremlin face. It's good fun. Again, if you want to know how much I love MODOK, go take a look at my run on Ms. Marvel. And what you'll also find, if you were pillaging through my studio, you would find that I kept every single MODOK page from my run on Ms. Marvel because I love them. And I kept all the Sleepwalker pages too because I thought Sleepwalker was cool. If you remember that guy, I think that was a Bob Budiansky creation in the late 80s, early 90s. And the character never went anywhere, but he did show up in Ms. Marvel, probably again because I told Brian, I almost said Brian Singer, Brian, the writer, Brian Reed, the writer on Ms. Marvel. I said, "Hey, can we work in Sleepwalker?" I mean, these are the things that writers goes, "Hey, what do you want to draw?" And then this is the stuff I tell them. Well, can you work in MODOK and can you work in the Sleepwalker? And they're like, "What?" So anyway, MODOK is way up on my list of, as you can see, he's number 2 of my top 5 villains. And I love drawing him too. I actually have his first appearance in near mint condition, of course, and that was Tales of Suspense number 92, I think. Not sure off the top of my head. Don't quote me on that, but it is Tales of Suspense. And so there you go. And a nice little David Finch MODOK. Can't do much better than that. Okay, here we go. Go ahead and guess, if you dare, what could possibly be my number 1. Paul Taylor says Kang was way better than MODOK, but I'm an Avengers fan. I like Kang a lot too. In fact, David Williams, when we were in the early genesis of Graybeard Studio, that's a show that we do right here on this channel every Wednesday at 2:00 Pacific time. It's the best draw stream on the internet. There's your plug. Working on a very special guest this week. We'll see if it happens, but So we did a Kang draw stream. Is it David and I started doing what is now become Graybeards, just as kind of like we would do a competition draw stream. I'd have him on, and then we would pick whatever, Captain America or whatever, and then we'd draw, and then we'd say, okay, mine's better, and he'd say, no, mine's better, and the chat would have fun, and insulting me usually, and but we did Kang, and I did a really cool Kang, but then David's was actually better than mine. Son of a... But yeah, I like Kang a lot, but he's not my number one. My number one is, I've been reading the chat. I should be reading the chat because I wanted to see what you guys were thinking. There you go. It's insulting. Insulting Aaron is the best part of the show. Some would argue it's the only part of the show. Then we got people arguing about Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil. Let's see. Dune Rangeli says his top two villains are Doctor Doom and the Joker. Yeah. Giant-sized Man-Thing is not a villain unless you fear the Man-Thing, because then you burn at his touch. So, but he's not really intending to be a bad guy. Pantheon says my number one is Nemesis. If only I knew who Nemesis even was. Henry then says the Spot. No. The Phantom Blot. So close. Everybody's saying Doom, Bizarro, Krang. Wait a minute. Wait. There it is. Krang. What is Krang? Is that even a thing? I'm going to write that down, Henry, and I'm going to use it. Krang the Unconqueror. I don't even know what that is. Okay. Okay, folks. Enough of the suspense. For me, there's only one. And that, of course, is the Green Goblin. This was my favorite as a kid. I was a big Spider-Man fan, huge Spider-Man collector as a kid. That was my only book that I bought every single month regularly. I mean, I had runs on Cap and Avengers and different books, but Spider-Man was the only one that I bought every month for really till Eric Larson took over the book, and then I quit. I'm just saying. So he's kind of a monster. He's a super villain, but he is creepy. Every single one of my villains is creepy and monstrous. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know about this guy. I love and this is a great issue, by the way. This is Romita's first issue, by the way. Ditko went through issue 38, and then Romita took over 39. And what a great issue to take over with. Iconic cover right out of the gate. Green Goblin learns that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And then we learn that Green Goblin at the end of this issue is Norman Osborn, the father of Peter's best friend, Harry Osborn. And he's got that rubber mask he just pulls on. And I just, the thing with him, he's kind of like the Joker. He's got that maniacal, crazy face. If the Joker's done right, or drawn correctly, I should say, or drawn the way I like, I should say. So they're very similar in that regard. They're both kind of nuts, mental issues, shall we say. But yeah, I've always liked the Green Goblin, and he's always probably going to remain my number one villain. Thulsa Doom's pretty good too. There's a King Kull villain that became a Conan villain for the movie. Kevin Thomas says, I like Hobgoblin better, but Kevin, probably because you're younger and you grew up on Hobgoblin, where I am older and grew up on the Green Goblin. So there you go. The Hobgoblin is simply an imitation of the Green Goblin. So how can you like an imitation better than the real thing? I don't understand. I don't see the logic there. I see that you are a victim of what you grew up reading and liking. But me, I'm an objective observer. So therefore, my opinion carries more weight. I'm just saying. Okay, here we go. Now it starts. Eric Boyd, I grew up on the Green Goblin, but I still prefer I still prefer the Hobgoblin. I don't know that I can take much more of this. I will say this: the Hobgoblin did have a good costume, though. And did it end up being Ned Leeds or not? They said it was, but then they said it wasn't, and then it was, and then you got Jack-o'-lantern, who I actually kind of liked too. I never liked Demo Goblin. I was like, they pushed it too far now. Pushed it too far. You know, the Hobgoblin with the pumpkin head, I kind of like that too. Well, here's two good reasons not to like either one of those characters. Mark Hamill voiced the Joker, and he voiced the Hobgoblin in Spider-Man, the animated series. He is a good voice actor, though. I'll give him that. Well, now I did like the Jackal, but of course the Jackal cloned Gwen Stacy. So, and he was nuts. I mean, that guy was, he was nuts. He was dangerous. I like how you say that. He was dangerous. And he hung out with a grizzly who was a really big dude who was dangerous too. So that was Spider-Man 139. So you had the Return of Green Goblin, which was 136 and 137, where Harry Osborn became the Green Goblin. Love those issues. Two great covers, especially the first one, 136, 137, 137. No, it was 130. Gosh darn it. Now I got to look. I should know this. I'm sure you guys will get it in the chat before I can even look it up. But okay, it was 136 was the Green Goblin. 136 and 137. Right, okay. Was when Harry Osborn became the Green Goblin. Then we had the Mind Worm, 138. That was the first Spider-Man book I bought off the rack at 7-Eleven. And then 139 was the Grizzly, but of course that had also introduced the Jackal as he was behind the scenes there. This is an that's right. Paul Taylor showing his geek card here, and the Jackal found out Peter was Spider-Man when he cloned Peter as well. That is correct. This is an excellent point. Every villain has great potential if they're written really well. That is correct. And you can take just about any plot, and if it's well written, you can pull something off. Star Trek 4 is a perfect example. I've used that before, but you know, you hear the premise, you're like, oh, they're going back in time to get whales to save the planet. You're like, you've got to be kidding me. But then you see the movie and go, this is really good. So, you know, anything, you can take just about anything and make it good if you're a good writer. I prefer to, you know, start off with something that's already kind of has a visual cool factor and then kind of build from there, because you've already got the cool factor built in. And I don't have to convince someone that something's cool when it doesn't look cool, but I wrote it really well, so therefore it is cool. Yes, and they hugged trees. You're right. That was the Punisher issue, right? First we saw the Jackal, right? But that was like, I guess 139 was the start of the story arc, though. The whole Gwen Stacy clone thing is what I'm thinking. But yes, I stand corrected. It is true. 2, 4, and 6 are your 3 best Star Trek movies. Of course, Graham Nolan would debate that, and we have in the past, and I think have just clearly destroyed him. But, you know, to each his own. Okay, so those are my top 5. We had a pretty robust and healthy conversation about comic book villains, which really shows that we're pretty nerdy on this channel. But that's okay, because that's kind of our bread and butter, isn't it? So let's just, you know, we stick to what you know. That's what I say. The other thing I like to think I know is just a little bit about art, but I'm going to educate you guys about some art that maybe with an artist you don't know of. And so let's find out. I know you guys are going, Mortimer Wilson, who are you? What in the? Okay, well, let me show you this guy's stuff, and we'll talk a little bit about him, if I may. Now, admittedly, he is someone I recently discovered, because I have a book, and it's not a great art book. Here it is here. illustrator the illustrator in America, 1880 to 1980. It doesn't really feature a ton of art. What it does is it features a little bit, but it's basically an index for all the great illustrators. And he gives a little bit of a bio about them, and in some cases, just a very small piece of art. But I was flipping through this because I was going to do somebody else. And then I happened to come across this guy, and I was like, well, wait a minute, this is pretty cool. And so I kind of did a little reading on him. And one of the things that appealed to me about his work was he has nice polish to his oil paintings here, but you guys are still talking about Star Trek. Is the dramatic nature and staging of his illustrations. Like, look at this one. I mean, these aren't just like the temptress, right? So she's apparently whisking this guy away for a little rendezvous, or pulling him along as he's looking back maybe for his wife or a date and maybe saying, am I going to get away with this? But look at the dramatic lighting, and look at the acting and the posture of the characters and stuff. I just felt like his work, the more I looked at it, the more I found this sort of really dramatic, cinematic staging of his illustrations that were kind of more than what I'd seen, or different from what I'd seen from other people. So I did a little reading on him, and I'll listen to this entry about Mortimer Wilson Jr. You know, first of all, he's from Lincoln, Nebraska, so he gets points in my book for that. Those of you who know that I'm a rabid Nebraska fan, because that's where my dad was from. And it says, he has a rich, sumptuous style of painting based on part in his training as a portraiture artist. So he was a portrait artist, and then later became an illustrator of stories that you would see in a variety of American magazines back in the golden age of illustration, like Saturday Evening Post, American Magazine, Women's Home Companion. Yes. Now, his dad was a conductor in the Atlanta Symphony and a composer, and he wanted his son to follow him in music, but they found out early on that he had an aptitude towards art, and so they sort of pushed him in that direction. Okay, now he studied at the Arts Student League in New York, and he continued studying on his own after that and painted a few portraits. That's what it says, painted a few portraits. I don't know. I assume that means for money, right? That he did some portraiture when he could pick it up. Now, here's the key. He says he also became involved in summer theater work as a director while teaching painting on the side. And it's his experience in the theater that lends to his dramatic posing and lighting and his approach to these illustrations. And that's something you don't see from every artist. Even guys that are really, really skilled sometimes are lacking this real sort of sense of drama. And he had this great sense of drama and storytelling along with really, really great skill. Because, I mean, this is really nice drawing, nice painting. You know, the lighting is terrific. And even stuff that wasn't, you know, necessarily dramatic in the sense that, oh my gosh, someone's in danger, or, you know, there's something ominous going on here. Even stuff like this lady, and this looks like it's probably might be a beer ad. I don't know. But, you know, with her man, they're back from wherever they went. You know, he's got his little tuxedo on, and they're sitting here by the fire. She's holding his beer like a good wife should. And, but look at the dramatic lighting, look at the posing of the figures. This is a very, very interesting painting of a very mundane subject matter. And it's that dramatic lighting. It's that, the posing again of the figures leaning into one another. There's just a sense of drama, visual drama that catches your eye and draws you into this. And that's a really tremendous skill. Now, as the story goes, he was a friend of Norman Rockwell's. And Rockwell kind of pushed him at the Saturday Evening Post, and that's where he started getting his work. But he was a guy who was doing illustrations on the insides of the magazines. I'm not saying he didn't do cover work, but a lot of the stuff we're looking at here are his work from his illustrated stories. Look at this guy with the cigarette, man. His brush. This guy means business, if you know what I'm saying. So he's going to paint this girl, and then he may be doing some other things too. He just, but again, I just think it's a real, I mean, he could have drawn this guy sitting in a chair and there wouldn't have been any sort of tension between the two characters. But you got this girl like holding up the dress, like maybe this guy's advancing on her, and he's certainly got that look in his eye. But there's just a real, again, sense of drama here that you don't normally see. And here's the painting in the background. So he was painting her, and now he's like, hey, baby, after we're done with this painting, she's like, no, I don't know you that well. So I don't know what she's saying. I don't know what the story is, but it's a very, very interesting way to portray this. And I'm sure it was in the narrative that he's illustrating, but still, you got to have an eye for it. And he has an eye of a director. And so we're getting these really sort of interesting compositions with a lot of drama in them. Yeah, he's kind of like, the artist kind of looks like Rudy Valentino. Yeah. Okay. And this is another one. Again, it's completely docile, and yet at the same time, it's so interesting looking. So you have this lady, they're sitting on a rooftop here. You can see the ships back here in the river. Serviceman probably home for leave or something. It's his wife or girlfriend. But just her pose, and then how like he's kind of leaning back and looking up at her. I mean, they could have been two people sitting at a table. They could have been, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could have staged this, but the way he did it is really dynamic and interesting for, again, a narrative piece here that is not all that dynamic and interesting in its subject matter, and yet he makes it really interesting to look at. She's indifferent. Is she? Or is she? Maybe he said something. Well, you know what? Again, not knowing the story, maybe he said something, we should get married. And she's like, oh, you're going away to war. Come on, get serious. Or she's like, man, I need a glass of wine. It's interesting. It would be interesting to know what the story behind this was. But all I can do is talk about the actual staging of it, which I think is really, really good. And this is an interesting thing here that Dale brings up. He says, I wish I could draw casual people this well. That is really the challenge when you're drawing comic books or anything, that the people you get into the superhero mode where you can always draw a superhero in a pose, but then, somebody in pants and a jacket sitting at a bar stool or something like this, that takes a real sort of commitment to mastering that aspect of figure drawing, how people look when they're actually sitting, the weight distribution, all those kind of things. Now, I'm sure he had models, but still he had to set up the shot is my point. And he did it very, very well. You guys in the chat. Now look at this. This is another sort of romantic thing, but look how dramatic it is. Look how he staged this. They're like on some sort of love seat, I guess. Or is that a piano? Oh, I guess, yeah. That is a piano. Maybe this dude's writing music for her. Who knows? You got Beethoven, statue of Beethoven there on the. But look how she's leaning back into him and looking up at him. And I just think it's just a great, unusual angle to do this illustration from. And the dress is great. The shininess. Excuse me. Somebody brought that up earlier on the nude. The girl was holding up the silk dress in front of her. The texture and shininess of this dress. I mean, this guy was really, really good. But again, if you're doing interior illustrations mostly, And I don't know enough about the guy because there's very little biographical information about this gentleman. So he's not super well known outside of probably, illustration circles where people in the know, but because I'd never heard of him. And maybe one of those reasons is because he was an interior illustrator mostly and not, a cover artist like Leyendecker or Norman Rockwell was. But again, tremendous story. Now, here's something else I want to bring your attention to about this guy that I thought was really interesting. All those paintings were really polished, but then you've got this. Look how rough this is. And I thought, well, maybe it was a study, but it isn't. I mean, he signed it down here at the bottom. And I just think it was a different approach. He did a very loose sort of painterly approach, if you will. Maybe he was influenced by, someone else and was trying this. I don't know if this is earlier in his career or later in his career, but you can tell the difference where the stuff we just looked at previously was more of a commercial or, really polished commercial style, where this maybe is more what you'd consider a fine art kind of expressive style. And I like them both. I mean, I love this guy and this lady here. And I just love when you're able to lay paint down that rough and still convey your story and your characters. This is some really, really cool stuff. One more here. This is in the same vein, very loose. And again, a really interesting composition here. Look how loose that is. I wonder if maybe they were studies, but I mean, they seem too detailed to be studies. I don't know why he would sign it if it was a study, though. But anyway, this is Mortimer Wilson Jr. And he doesn't have a website or anything, but you can look him up, Google him, and stuff will come up. And just for the sake of reference here, here's a picture of the old guy, and he looks exactly like you would think he would look with a name like Mortimer Wilson Jr. Now, this was late in life. He lived to be, I think, 96. He died in the 90s. He was born like 1801 or something. When was he born? Oh, I closed the book. So he was in his 90s when he passed away. So he was born right like 1900, 1902, somewhere in that neighborhood. Started painting in the 30s, and then worked all the way. Apparently he had a problem with his eyesight, and he had to quit painting for a while, but then recovered. I mean, that's all it said. It didn't give any details. And then he started doing portraits and stuff again. And I don't know, I don't know that he painted into his 90s, but he painted, well into his old age, and then passed away, like I said, in the 90s, which is pretty remarkable. A guy that would, illustrate in the golden age of illustration and not pass away till 96. Pretty remarkable. But anyway, there he was. Mortimer Wilson Jr. It's funny. There's younger pictures of him where he doesn't have the beard and stuff, but he still looks old. He has one of those old, those long, big noses and the long, kind of gaunt face. He looked old even when he was young. But man, what a talent! What a talent! Paul, that's a very interesting question. And I guess it depends on how you use it. When a lot of times you would see, I think they're interchangeable, but a sketch, obviously, again, it depends on who's doing it, but all painters and even illustrators, even comic book artists, right? You'll do a sketch. For us, a sketch is usually a pencil or pen thing where you're trying to work out a layout. So it's very, very rough and loose, and you're trying to work a layout. like Leyendecker used to do these color studies, okay, where they would look like finished paintings, but he would only paint part of the subject matter, like this guy's arm, right? He's like, okay, that sleeve's going to give me problems. I want to figure out how I'm going to do that sleeve. And he would literally paint the sleeve as a finished painting on a board, and then he would use that as his reference when he went in and did the final painting. So he would have a series of studies for a single painting, like maybe that guy's face, a guy's sleeve, his shoe, things like that. You'll see a lot of that. If you look up Leyendecker, you'll see a lot of those color studies that he did. A study could also be a life drawing thing. Like you have a model and you're posing them in different figures and different positions, and you're doing quick studies of them to get something down on paper. You can say, okay, I like this pose, I don't like that pose. That would also be considered a study. But they also call them color sketches too. So it's like, I mean, there probably is specific definitions for each one, but I think they're somewhat interchangeable depending on who was using them and who was doing them. No, he was an American. Some of them are saying, were these roughs, or were they, where was it? Here we go. 40% Zed says, are you sure it was a rough or a study? It could have been impressionism such as Monet. That's what I mean. I'm not sure. He could have been influenced. He might have been taking a turn from the really polished commercial stuff and saying, you know, he was into the French, he got into French impressionism, whatever, and tried to kind of do something like that. I think oftentimes you see this in older illustrators. I'm not using myself, for example, but I am an example of this, where you spend your whole life doing everything really detailed and really sharp and really clean. And then you start, as you get older, you get tired of it. You're like, I've done this a million times. I've reached this pinnacle of, you know, line art perfection, right? And it's like, now you want to try to move in the other direction and say, what can I still learn? What can I still get across, but be looser? So it's not, it becomes then more about the figure work than it does about the finish, right? And in comics, a lot of times you'll see not great figure work. So your foundation is not that great, but you have great line work and detail work over the top of that, which fools the eye and creates this visceral impact and reaction with the audience that they really dig the work, even though the drawing may not be that great, right? When you do something really rough like that, it becomes more about how good the drawing is and how good the design is, because that's what's got to carry it, because your detail work is not carrying it. It all becomes color and light and shadow and shape. And it's a different kind of a challenge. And I don't know if it's as readily acceptable in comics because we're all so used to the detail as it is in painting, right? But you see guys like Ron Garney, Lee Weeks, me a little bit in Wraith of God. I mean, I'm looser in Wraith of God, but there's still a lot of detail to it, obviously. But you'll see guys that will kind of change gears a little bit and say, okay, I'm not going to do all this really, really tight penciling. I'm going to do more rough gestural type stuff. And if they draw really well, which Ron does and Lee does, it doesn't matter because the drawing is still there, and the figure work and stuff still carries the art, even though it's much looser when it comes to the finishes. You know, John Romita Jr., much looser than someone like, say, you know, Brian Boland, right, who's extremely line oriented, very tight. But anyway, so it's interesting how as an artist, your tastes maybe, or I mean, I still love highly detailed work, but for myself, I kind of feel like there's that challenge of trying to make something really cool without trying to hide behind all the detail. You know, can I present my drawings in their most rudimentary form, simplest form, and still tell a story and still capture the audience because the figure work is so good? I mean, those are different kinds of challenges. Paul Taylor for $10. Thank you so much, Paul. He says, interesting show. Thanks as always for the content. Don't forget to plug your latest stuff. Looking forward to Kit Carter hardcover. Thank you for the $10, and thank you for reminding me of that, because I do a terrible job of self-promotion. It is true. But I don't do a terrible job of showing my work. That's what my wife would always say, do your math, but show your work. So we're going to take a look at some more artwork, but this time it's going to be mine. And this is, I'm going through my flat files looking for splash pages that I did from series that I worked on. And last week we did Damage, if you recall. This week we're going to open the old flat files and take a look at something else. Okay. Wonder Woman. You guys probably all remember Wonder Woman. Worked 2 years on Wonder Woman. And I drew a lot of pictures. Sold all of them almost too. I'll elaborate on that. So I don't have very many splash pages left. And well, here's the story. I got to the last issue of Wonder Woman that Gail and I were working on. I knew it was going to be my last issue and I'd be moving on. I was supposed to take over Superman, but the script was so bad that I ended up going to Justice League International instead. But that was Superman Walks Across America. I remember that. Oh my gosh. When they pitched, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm not drawing that. I mean, you want me to draw 12 issues where Superman doesn't even appear in the comic? Like, forget it. So I worked on the last issue of Wonder Woman, and I was like, holy crap. I'm such a capitalist. I sold like everything, right? Because it was such high demand for those Wonder Woman pages. They're like Legion collectors, man. They're just ravenous. They got to have them. And so I was selling everything left and right. And I realized that I didn't have a splash page. I had not saved a splash page of Wonder Woman in costume, full costume. Because if you remember, my run with Gail was, Wonder Woman was getting the crap beat out of her all the time. And she was dealing with the Sword and Sorcery, the first 4 issues I did. And, she lost her soul, so her eyes were glowing red. And then there was things where she had like a bandana wrapped around her arm, and she was all scuffed up and beat up because of that super villain that she was fighting. I can't remember the name of it. So I didn't have a splash page that I had saved of her that was her just looking like Wonder Woman, pristine. And so I said, Gail, can you write in a splash page in this last issue? Because I want to have one page, that I keep. And so she did. But let's take a look at some of the splash. And so anyway, I don't have any of my flat files. I had to find them on the internet, and I had a really hard time finding a ton of splash pages from that series. But anyway, I did find some, and let's take a look at them. Oh, for crying out loud. How could that be that small? Oops. I can't even show that it's so small. You can't even see it. Oh, well, one down. All right, this is later in the run. I don't know. What issue is this? This is issue number 40. I think I started on 21. This isn't a good Wonder Woman splash, but it is a good splash. Wonder Woman in the Underground Railroad system, I guess the subway of wherever she was at, a big old Chinese dragon kind of thing, which was kind of fun to draw. Matt Ryan on the inks here. This is a prime example that I'm talking about, line work and being real slick. Matt's a great inker, of course, but I drew all these pencil lines in there that he had to ink and then probably cussed me out for it. I did treat the hair a little bit more as a design element than, the strands of hair kind of thing. I was always looking at Frazetta, and Frazetta he always, dark-haired women and men too. Whenever he's doing hair, it was always these large masses of black with some highlights in them. And that's how he depicted hair. Now my edges are not soft. They're very hard and stylized here in her hair. But the idea of them being black, solid black, then having a highlight someplace, I kind of got from Frazetta. This was from, I don't remember. I was going to say this was early in the series, but I don't think it was. I think it was later in the series. And again, the reason I'm showing these is because I don't own them anymore. But these are ones I was able to find where she's out in the snow petting polar bears. I don't know. I look at that and I think that polar bear is too small. But I know I referenced that and was trying to figure out how big they actually were when they were on all fours. I probably should have made the polar bear bigger. But anyway, still, she's all, Wonder Woman all iced up petting a polar bear. Not exactly the most exciting thing. Brad Anderson was the colorist on this, and he's probably the top colorist in the industry now, but I had him when he was starting out on Wonder Woman. And then he got moved to Wonder Woman. I could never get him back because he was always on big projects. They're like, hey, this dude's really good. He did color a Kit Carter trading card for me, though. So I did get that out of him. Alrighty. This is probably the most famous page from my entire run on the series. But this is exactly what I'm talking about here. Who colored this? Is there no color credits on there? Doesn't look like it. Is this Hi-Fi? It might be Hi-Fi. They colored the cover. Yeah, so Brad left the book. This might be Hi-Fi. Well, they did a great job. Yeah, I think it is Brian Miller and Hi-Fi. This is really nice. But this is probably the most famous. But as you can see, she's all scarred up, right? And she has this red bandana on there, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's still not like pure Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? It's like there's something kind of, but I love this piece to death. Now, of course, I sold it because that's the kind of guy I am. Saying it looks a bit washed out. Well, yeah, they had but that's that sunlight coming in here. It's a color effect. You either like it or you don't, I guess. But I had a banner with this for the longest time. But yeah, it was one of those drawings that just really, I thought, turned out well. And I probably should have hung on to it, but I don't know. I probably sold it for a lot of money. So it's, you're raising a family, you need the cash, folks. Let's see here. There's the black and white version, but it's way too small. Where did I get these little tiny? I tell you, man, can't win for losing. That's what my mom used to say. I can't win for losing. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Okay, now this one, this is interesting, and this is page 1 after of issue 27. After she gets her butt kicked by what was it? You guys tell me. What was the name of that villain? Why can't I remember the name? She had the spiked eyes and the red hair, and she was like made up of all the souls that were killed at Auschwitz or something. It was really grim. What's the name of that character? Yeah. Anyway, so this is the last page to issue 27. No, this is the first page to issue 27. I take it back. Or the splash page, not. So this villain just beat the tar out of her. And Gail had originally written in the script that she wanted like this rebar to be going through the palms of her hands, like she was almost crucified. And I just thought that was too violent and too gross, and I wouldn't do it. So I said, I'm going to do this instead. And she was like, okay, I get it. But the interesting thing about this, I really like the composition on this piece because I could have gone in really close. But what I did on the last page of the previous issue is we were in on close on Wonder Woman, right? Where they had walked in and saw her, and we were like this close. We got full figure, but and so I said, well, I'm not going to open the next issue with the exact same shot, and so I did this where basically your focal point is right here with Wonder Woman, and then you can see the blood running down here off panel, so it sort of, leads your eye right to where you want to be, which is right here. So I'm really proud of the composition, obviously, on this page, because your first reaction may be, oh my gosh, why didn't we do this closer to really get in there? But like I said, I did that on the previous page and issue, the last page of the last issue. And so I wanted to open it differently. And so I went with this composition instead of just complete, visual impact. I went with a little more sophisticated composition. Genocide is the character. Thank you, Paul Taylor, and everybody else that came up with that. Yeah, Paul Taylor's got it. Yeah, it's Genocide was the villain. It was kind of like Wonder Woman's Doomsday, and she just got the crap kicked out of her before she finally defeated him. But as you can see, I had tons of splash pages where Wonder Woman just had the crap beat out of her. I mean, she was in rough shape most of the series. Now here's a double page. We did a lot of double page spreads too. So check this out here. Now this is where she's fighting some sort of like demon thing. And the very first story arc in my run on Wonder Woman was we were doing the 70s DC sword and sorcery characters. So you had the Stalker, Claw the Unconquered, and Beowulf, and Wonder Woman. They were back in sort of their medieval-ish whenever times. And the Stalker was a guy who had his soul taken from him, and he was trying to get his soul back. And this original series in the 70s was drawn by Ditko and inked by Wally Wood. But anyway, so basically Wonder Woman, as you can see, she has a Claw the Unconquered's hand here. He had like this deformed claw-like hand that he wore this red gauntlet over. And he was a barbarian, like Conan character. And then she lost her soul. That's the Stalker had red eyes because his soul was missing. And she's trying to get it back from this demonic character. And now they're in modern day Washington, D.C. This is that big lake thing that was in Forrest Gump, that Jenny ran through, and Forrest, when he's up there talking in front of the mic. So anyway, this is a nice double page spread, but she doesn't have her eyes, right? So I remember art collectors going, do you have any pages where Wonder Woman just looks like her normal self? And I'm like, yeah, not really. He's like, can you just draw the eyes in? I'm like, nope, not going to do it. So anyway, and again, she had the red bandana around her arm. I can't remember if that was from Beowulf or what. I don't remember exactly the details here. But it is in trade paperback form, both hardcover and paperback, so you can check it out if you have not. The Reflection Pond, says Old Dirty Fatty. Okay. JG Martinez, hello and good evening, Aaron Lopresti. It's always an excellent time to pop in when you're showing your amazing artwork. Well, thank you for saying that. I greatly appreciate it. Robert the Bruce says it won't let me super chat. Lame. I don't know why you would have a trouble with that. And again, you can see how stylized I did the hair here. It's not as straight lined and hard edged as that one we looked at earlier when she was in the train tunnel. Because I was always trying to find something that I really, really liked. I do like this better because it's more wavy and more loose and seems more random, even though it's completely flat and stylized at the same time. But that was a pretty good double page spread that I was really happy with. And here's another one. And here we go. Here's a double page spread of Wonder Woman looking completely normal. This was later after she got through with Genocide and wasn't all cut up all the time. And this was a great double page spread because it was at the beach. So I really didn't have to draw anything in the background hardly at all. I put this like this walkway back here just to add something, and this little dock out here just to add something to all this vast water. Although I don't know there would really be a dock like that out on the ocean. Well, there was in Florida, though. We went to a place called Howard's Point, and they had a dock out there that you could walk out on, but it was just like, I didn't have a boat or anything on it. But anyway, so this is, what's her name? Gigantus or whatever her name was. Biggie. What was her name? Yeah, so yeah, I got Hi-Fi, did the colors after Brad Anderson left. And Hi-Fi, he does great work too. So this stuff's really nice looking. $5 from Geek Avenger. Thank you. Geek says, for more comics or art supplies. Oh, the $5 are for me to buy more comics or art supplies. Speaking of comics, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Thanks for reminding me. So anyway, there's that. Now the two, where I thought I had, oh, well, don't pay attention to me, folks. This is from issue 21, which I think is the second issue I drew. And this is Wonder Woman fighting a bunch of sort of, they're in a, what do you call it, a mead hall or something where Vikings hang out. And, excuse me. And so I did the little, Barry Windsor Smith framing device here, which is, I've got her sword here and then Beowulf's sword on this side and then Wonder Woman's, star and then some vines. And then these guys turn into demons, goblin type things after the fight starts. So that was the significance of this, because Beowulf, as you can see, there he is, has like this demon skull helmet that he wears, because that's kind of what he is. He's kind of a demon hunter, I guess. So I hung on to this one just because it was so, Conan the Barbarian-esque. It was like, I'm keeping this. Nice lighting effect from the fire, and it was a pretty complicated piece. So I wanted to hang on to it, and I have. So I've got two other Wonder Woman splashes that I couldn't find in my flat files for some reason. I know they're around here someplace. I'll show you this one. I kept this one just because it had a big great white shark on it. This is issue 21. And that's Hippolyta down there, mourning the loss of one of those giant megalodons that guard Paradise Island. Someone cut a triangle out of them. Can't remember what the significance of that was, but yeah, I got to draw the shark and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm keeping this page. Not that this would be like a big seller anyway, but so anything with a shark in it, I'm probably going to take. In fact, in the Conan Wonder Woman book that I worked on, they fought sharks. They had a scene where they jumped overboard from these slave boats and got into it with some sharks. And I kept those pages too, because they had sharks on them. Great white sharks. So the other two significant splashes that I have, that maybe I'll show them next week if I can dig them up. One of them is Wonder Woman as an anime character. And I thought I'll never draw this again. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Basically, it's a splash page of Wonder Woman as an anime character, but what you do in the next page, you pull back and she's looking at she's in Japan with Black Canary, and they're looking at this toy statue of Wonder Woman as an anime character and kind of laughing at the whole marketing thing. And so I kept that because actually, you know me in anime, but I actually did it pretty well and I was kind of proud of myself. And I thought, this is never going to happen again. So I kept it, and I can't even find it on the internet. I put in Wonder Woman anime Lopresti. You would think it would come up, but no. And I don't even remember what issue it was from. It was when they were like professional wrestlers. I don't know if you guys remember when Black Canary and Wonder Woman became professional wrestlers or something for a couple issues. Kind of funny. But so I kept that. And then there's another one, the one I told you about earlier, where I had Gail write in a splash page of Wonder Woman so I could have a splash page of Wonder Woman just kind of standing there being Wonder Woman. And I kept that one too. But that's it. Those two that I just showed you, the other two that for some reason I cannot find at the moment. But I know I didn't sell them. I know I've got them someplace. I just got to find exactly where. So Grim Jim 66 says, I love how into you are with what you draw. A lot of people missing that. Well, yeah, I guess it always was a job to a certain degree, but I've always had a chip on my shoulder. I was like trying to prove myself all the time. So I always took it pretty seriously, and they weren't always successful, and I could show you a lot of ones that weren't as successful as the ones I've been showing you, but why would I do that to myself? But yeah, I try to take it seriously and do the best job I could all the time. And sometimes it worked out better than other times. But anyway, there you go. There's some splash pages from my run on Wonder Woman that we probably, hopefully, won't soon forget. All right, guys. It's am I forgetting anything? I'm looking around. Oh, I'll show you something real quick. Actually, let's do this before we get to the weird subject matter that we're about to delve into. Not that this isn't weird subject matter, but for those of you interested, I do have a campaign right now on Indiegogo called Kit Carter Planet Doom. It is a 64-page graphic novel. I'm hoping it doesn't grow, but it might when I get to the final battle sequence. You just never know. When you get to that final, I did it in Wraith of God 1. I was like, I need to lengthen this fight out. And I did. And so I'm not afraid to add extra pages. But it's at least going to be 64 pages. Let's put it that way. I'm a little more than halfway done with it right now. So that's a good sign. It's going to be 8.5 by 11. Okay. So it's not the regular comic book size. It's going to be the 1980s Marvel put out a series of graphic novels, and they were all 8.5 by 11 square bound. And that's exactly what this is going to be, kind of to harken back to the good old days, as I often do when I'm doing my own comics. So there's a hardcover edition that comes signed and numbered, limited edition. So it will be printed very close to what orders are. I'll print a little bit over, but not a ton. And so every copy of this will come signed and numbered by me. And then there's an extra art gallery in the back of the book, an extra, 8-10 pages, something like that. I haven't got the final count on that yet. Or you can get the soft cover, which will have my good friend and good friend of the show, Chris Stevens. This painted cover, very pulpy looking, just vibrant color, just really wonderful artist. So you can go with this for the soft cover. Now, it doesn't have the gallery inside, but it is less expensive, of course, because it is a soft cover. It's not signed and numbered. We call it the trade edition, perhaps. Here's some work from the inside of the book. This is Schmagma, the Lava Man. And much like an Indiana Jones movie, we start at the tail end of one adventure before we start the new adventure. So she's kind of wrapping this up. And wrapping up what? Well, there's a 15-page Kit Carter story as a backup in Wraith of God 2, which is also known as Wraith of God Blood Hunters. So if you missed that, you might want to pick up a copy of that, which we'll get to in a minute. to go along with your Kit Carter. And there it is, colored, of course, by Kelsey Shannon. Does a terrific job. Dan Lawless is providing the back cover to the issue, kind of a 50s or 40s style pinup. This is an example of some of the art that's in the gallery of the hardcover. This is by Gary Martin, colored by Kelsey. It's kind of a tribute to Frazetta, Buck Rogers comic covers from the 1950s. There was the original cover to the book, and I changed it, decided to go with the tree monster instead, and this will be in the gallery. You can get t-shirts, black and teal. You've got Kit and Merv the Astro Chimp on the t-shirt. You can get this 8.5 by 11 inch sketchbook that has all the stuff that I've used over the past 10 to 12 years that Kit's been in development. I've just got a ton of sketchbook material. There'll be some penciled pages from the book reproduced in here as well. So this is real nice. This, of course, comes signed as well. Then you can get the 14 by 36 inch movie poster, Kit Carter Planet Doom movie poster. This is the color rough or color study, as we talked about earlier. That's sort of my template for how the color is going to be when I do the finished painting, which I'm getting to very shortly. I keep doing these warm-up paintings. I'm like, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do one more. You can get a laser etched Kit Carter shot glass, because we do have Garbage Man shot glasses already and Wraith of God shot glasses, which I still have. If you didn't get them, you can still get them just by contacting me directly at aaron@aaronlopresti.com. That's aaron@aaronlopresti.com. Or you can go to my website, which is aaronlopresti.com, and find me that way as well. So anyway, you can get one of these. And we're going to have 6 shot glasses in the entire set. And then we're going to do a shot glass holder for all of them. Each shot glass will have a different one of my IP's logo on the shot glass. If you're behind and you say, man, I'd really love to read Garbage Man. Well, I've got a trade paperback. They are available. If you say Power Cubed, what was that? Well, it was another creator-owned book I did through Dark Horse a dozen years ago now. That's a lot of fun. Very Kit Carterish, and it's very sort of irreverent humor, but an adventure story as well. I have trade paperbacks signed available of those. This is Wraith of God #1 with the second printing with the new cover. We have the black and white cover option or the full color cover option. And this is Wraith of God 2, Wraith of God Blood Hunters. There are 4 cover options. All of these are still available, and you can order those all through this campaign. There's some original art still up there if you check the perks. Essentially, what this is Kit Carter is an elite ranger in the Galactic Alliance Freedom Force, also known as GAF. And along with her partner Merv the Astro Chimp, she polices the galaxy, bringing the most dangerous villains and tyrants to justice. Lord Menace is the tyrant king of a dying monster-infested planet codenamed Planet Doom. In a dangerous and desperate move, he acquires the Eye of Omniman and employs its unmatched power to rejuvenate his planet and create forces to conquer the galaxy. Kit and Merv are dispatched to stop him, but is this the one adversary that even they can't handle? Find out in this irreverent space adventure inspired by 1950s sci-fi B movies and comics. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Why make it up when I can just read it off the screen? You'll find the link in the description of this video. This book is shadow banned, so you cannot go on Indiegogo and search it. Again, political discrimination runs screaming through our nation right now, but we are finding ways to defeat it. So if you would like to back this campaign, you can do so by just following the link in the description of this video, or you can go to kitcarterplanetdoom.com, and that'll take you right there as well. I don't think you're going to miss this. This is a ton of fun. If you just want something that's just kind of a fun read, adventure story, lots of comedy, this is the book for you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my spiel. That is all the public service announcements and commercials I'll be running today on the show. Anyway, so I got a gift from Geek Avenger and Squeaky. Let's see what they got me. It's Zatanna's Everyday Magic. Now, the reason Geek sent me this, he tells me, is because we went through my entire comic collection. Well, when I say my entire comic collection, I mean the highlights of my comic collection over the past several months. But I didn't have any books in the Z's. So I got Xenozoic Tales, but that starts with an X. Zena starts with an X. So there is my Z book. And he sent it to me right there. With a price sticker on it, which he crossed out because, you know, you don't ever give gifts to people and then tell them how much you spent. Oh, look at this. Now I got to dig that off of there. That's all right. We'll put it in the spinner rack. I don't know who did the interior. Who did the interior on this? Oh, boy. Oh, Paul Dini wrote it, though. Artist Rick Mays. I don't know who that is. So anyway, it's very cartoony. So we'll give this a look. And now I officially have a comic book in the Z's, and I'll put it in my spinner rack right back there. Thank you, Geek. I appreciate it. It's always thinking about me. That's so sweet. Jerry Rascos for $5. Let me try that again. Jerry Rasco for $5. Thank you, Jerry. He says, the vintage nature of Kit Carter reminds me of the Captain Proton bits from Star Trek Voyager. Are you a fan of Star Trek series as well? Not of Voyager. Graham Nolan and I will agree on this. Star Trek ends with the original series as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about all that other crap. I like the movies that have the original crew. And I will confess that I did kind of like the reboot, the first movie, with Chris Pine as, you know, the captain. It's Captain Kirk, and it was an Abrams movie. I like the first one. The second one with Khan was okay, but had some really silly moments in it that, and it was like, why are we reinventing the wheel here? It felt like what he did with Star Wars, which I thought was a disaster. You know, it's like he just retold the same Star Wars story, just changed the characters. I'm like, give me a new Star Wars. And I'm like, give me a new Trek adventure. You know, maybe let's do some more Gorn adventures or something like that. Why bring back Khan? You know, Khan, Star Trek 2 with Ricardo Montalban was the best Star Trek movie. So why are you remaking it in a weird way that's going to not be as good? It just was so dumb. I mean, people in Hollywood, okay, let me rephrase that. People in charge everywhere in the creative fields make dumb decisions because the people with the talent are the ones making the movies, not the ones making the decisions. And the people making decisions are stupid. And they need to quit making bad decisions. I'm done. I'm through ranting. So if you're watching this and you're a head of a studio or something, I apologize for insulting you. Just quit making bad decisions and I won't insult you. Okay, so anyway, so I'm not a fan of any of the Next Generation stuff, but I am anything that has Kirk and Spock and McCoy, I'm into. So there you go. Yeah, the Tholians, the Tholian web. That was actually the third season. Oh my gosh, I'm getting drawn into this. The third season of Star Trek was not the best. Okay, 1 and 2, great. 3 had good episodes, but also had some not great episodes. Tholian Web was a pretty good episode. I like that one. We never really got to know much about the old Tholians, though. Daniel Russell says he still cries when Spock dies. My mom did. I took her to see it. She wept. She was a big Star Trek fan, still is. And she got me hooked on Star Trek. In fact, you can probably blame her for me being into comics and weird stuff. And she always goes, why do you like monsters so much? I'm like, hello, Mom. I was watching Star Trek when I was 4, thanks to you. So, you know, I want to make sure that all the blame is attributed correctly for my upbringing. Geeky says, are you a fan of TAS? Is that Tasmanian Devil? I don't know what that means. Guys, do not abbreviate. I have no freaking clue what abbreviations are for the most part. Twilight Zone, very good. Aaron, are you going to work with Gail Simone again? I am not working with any writers ever again because I don't need to. I can write my own stuff, and that's what I would prefer to do. And not that, writers, there's anything wrong with people I worked with. I had great luck with all the writers that I worked with, almost. I can't think of a bad, writer. Vendetti was awesome. I worked on him on a couple of projects, but Damage was really, really good, despite the fact that nobody read it. Even Christy Marks, I worked with on Amethyst, which was a really good read. It's just no one read it. Brian Reed did a great job on Ms. Marvel. Greg Pak was incredible, still is, but on Planet Hulk. I mean, you just go down the line, right? I've had really good luck with writers. Now, I would be complaining about working on Superman if I'd actually taken the job, but since I didn't, I can't complain because I didn't take the job. And I'm so glad I didn't, because if I did, I would be complaining. Well, Paul, I'm not talking about Princess of Gemworld. I'm not talking about the late 80s or whatever the revamp was. I'm talking about what I did, which is more of a Game of Thrones take on it. I shouldn't say what I did. Christy wrote the thing, but I visually interpreted it. And it was a major challenge because every single page that I had to draw, I had to create. There was no established universe for this character and that we were using because we were doing everything. It was much more of a, Amethyst battle angel than it was Amethyst Queen of Gemworld or Princess of Gemworld. Internet Guy for $5. Thank you, Internet Guy. He says, enjoying the stream. Nice way to end the weekend. Well, thank you. We like to kick back here and talk about a lot of different things. Audience is huge right now. You guys, I would appreciate it if you would hit the like and subscribe. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do. We have great content here. I do this every Sunday. You can catch me doing Professionals every Tuesday, Graybeard Studio Wednesdays, and then occasionally I will do a last minute live stream where I'm drawing or something and talking. So please hit the like and subscribe, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys, for all of you, for being here and watching. Torchbearer Studios says, any stories? Not really. I mean, I was desperate for work. I couldn't get any work at that period of time. And, they I don't know why. John Nee, who was in charge of Wildstorm at the time, and is a Christian, as am I, and said, hey, you want to do this Left Behind series? We're going to adapt it into a, and I'm like, okay, first of all, I had no other job. So what was I going to say? No. But I thought, okay, this could be good. This would be fun, end times, apocalyptic. And well, as it turned out, everything that was interesting in the story happened off panel. Like, it was always like the events after a cataclysmic something or other, just a ton of talking heads and stuff. And that goes to show you how difficult sometimes it is to adapt a novel into something that's a really visual format, which comic books are, graphic novels. So it was boring to draw. I'd have to admit it. It was boring to draw. And I did it until I picked up some X-Men work, and then I bolted. Not because I didn't like the story or whatever. It was just dull. It was dull to draw. It was mainly people standing around talking. There was no monsters. There was no, even the stuff that you thought might be cool and interesting to look at. It wasn't really in the story. It was kind of talked about. Oh, that earthquake that happened over there, or when all the planes crashed and blah, blah, blah. You're kind of like, yeah. So there's that story. It's not a great story, but it is a story. Speaking of stories, as we get close to the 2-hour mark here on the show, we should not delay any longer. It's time for what I know you're all here for. This is what you've been waiting for as we unfold the mysteries of the world we live in. I'm always worried that I go, am I going to be able to get 2 hours worth of content in here? And I just talk forever, and suddenly we have 2 hours of content. Okay, here we go. finding Bigfoot has been very difficult for us. We've found Bigfoot videos, but we haven't found Bigfoot. So I decided to branch out a little bit more. And I found this some sort of interesting thing that some people were talking about on YouTube called the Dark Pyramid of Alaska. So what the heck is this? Well, I found a video and I clipped a couple things. So let's take a look at some of these videos and we'll kind of talk about this and see what you think. Hopefully I won't get... well, I'm going to turn the sound off so I don't get busted. Actually, no, I want to listen to this. Hang on a second here. Let's give it a shot, and I'll stop it here frequently so that we don't get shut down. I can't even remember what website I stole this off of, or I'd give them credit. Oh, here we go.
The news report stated that the explosion was so great that it sent shockwaves underground through the fabric of the earth. These shockwaves traveled over 4,000 miles all the way to Alaska, where they were picked up by earthquake monitoring stations.
Okay, so what they're talking about here is they're talking about that China apparently did this subterranean nuclear blast test, which sent shockwaves through the entire crust of the earth. And so the United States was able to sort of graph out a sonar of, you know, underground imagery based on these vibrations that were sent out from this nuclear blast. And they came across something in the state of Alaska, and this was 93-ish, near Nome, Alaska, outside of Nome, Alaska. Okay. So like in this mountain range near Nome, Alaska. So that's what they're referring to here.
By analyzing these waves, scientists could tell the density of the rock they passed through. And they detected what appeared to be an enormous subterranean structure shaped like a perfect pyramid.
Okay, so here it is, folks. This, of course, is a artist's rendition because there's no leaked photographs. But supposedly you've got this black pyramid buried underneath the ground in Alaska. Okay, so that's what allegedly they detected.
They said in Alaska, a pyramid was found larger than the one in Giza.
Okay, and there's the Giza pyramids right there. Okay, so that guy, okay, here, I've already got problems with this. Cynical Aaron to the rescue. Okay, so the guy we saw in the video here is a former, you know, army dude who had apparently access to some top secret information. Okay. So he talks in this video about how when he's working for the government, he comes across this area. He's like charting out maps or whatever of Alaska. And there's one area that's not charted. And he's like, why isn't this charted? Everything else in the entire state is charted, except this one area that's kind of blanked out, you know, which, why would they put that on the map anyway? I mean, it's okay. So anyway, so he starts digging into this, right? Well, they silence him for digging into this. You're on a need to know basis, pal, and you don't need to know this. Okay. So now here we are. This was in 93. Now here we are 30 some years later. And he's talking about it, you know, on YouTube and on documentaries and blah, blah, blah. And no one's silencing him now. So it's kind of like, well, if this was really a thing and they were keeping him, you know, quiet while he was in the service, it's like, why wouldn't they keep him quiet when he was out of the service? You know what I'm saying? But hey, just saying. So anyway, there's this pyramid allegedly underground. Who put it there? The aliens? We don't know. Now, he allegedly, again, well, he definitely called this investigative reporter an alleged investigative reporter. We can't even verify these people are actually in the service. So we don't know if any of this is true, of course. But is that really the point? Do we really care if it's true? I kind of do, but let's take a look. I've got another video here. This is another segment of the same video. Same picture, different narration. So we'll listen to the investigative journalist and what she has to say here.
This big, dark pyramid is 550 feet from the base to the top.
A 550-foot pyramid made of dark stone, buried underground, which was being investigated secretly by the military.
In my mind, this is the largest, biggest archaeological find in history.
In his mind, it's the biggest archaeological find in history. So you have this investigative reporter, allegedly, who's now investigating this. And of course, the government's not trying to keep anybody quiet from talking about this and making videos, probably because it doesn't exist. But let's just say it did. What is it? Was it put there by aliens? They're saying there's all sorts of like weird, planes fly over the area. They have instrument control problems and blah, blah, blah. So the Dark Pyramid, Alaska, larger than the pyramids in Giza. Who could have built such a thing? Only the aliens could have. And there you have it. I don't know what to make of it, folks. Geek Easy says, you still have a responsibility not to violate your clearance once you leave the military. If you do it, the consequences are the same. He'd be in deep crap if this were the case. That is my issue with this, is that I just don't believe him. That's my issue, because he's not credible. It's like if you're releasing stuff like that and you get your name out there and, oh yeah, when I was in the military, I did this, 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 and I saw this and saw that. You can't release that information. If you did, that's a criminal offense. And even if they didn't want people to know, they would send guys to your house to tell you to stop talking or you're going to jail, kind of thing. So, you know, but this is apparently a thing, and it's rampant, and it amazes me how eagerly people are willing to jump in on just any sort of paranormal, any sort of conspiracy theory rumor. And I've become a conspiracy theorist, more of the realistic kind, like COVID and things like that. We actually have sort of evidence to prove this whole sort of alien Bigfoot monsters kind of thing. Yeah, I wish they were real, but man, I need some actual evidence to really convince me. I'm just that cynical. I want to say Robert Burbill says, counterpoint, if they punish him, it validates what he said on some level. True, but wouldn't they not punish him, but privately punish him? Like go and give him a little visit, say, dude, we're going to break your legs if you keep talking, kind of thing. So, the woman, as Yaya says, is Linda Moulton Howe. She was the first to report on cattle mutilations in the 70s. Oh my gosh. No. Well, you know where the best write-up is on this dark pyramid? Star Magazine. So that's all you need to know, folks. Right next to the new article on Bat Boy. So I know I'm very cynical, and but I enjoy a good story. I'm looking for evidence, man. I'm out there looking to be convinced. I'm just not an easy person to convince, but I'm looking for it. Geeky says, I have provisional top secret while I was in. I couldn't just look at any top secret thing, but also if I reveal anything I'm not supposed to be, it'd be jail time for me. See, he knows. The Geeky, he knows how the military operates. Oh my gosh. Linda Moulton Howe supposedly had a relative involved with the Roswell crash as well. It's all connected, man. Someone brought up earlier that they think that maybe Bigfoot hides out in the Dark Pyramid, which would explain a lot. Well, because according to the reports that none of us have seen, that these people allegedly have seen, that that's how it's described, as this black, a solid black kind of pyramid. Now there is, get a load of this, there is a black pyramid really in Egypt that's pretty much collapsed and stuff, and it's kind of interesting, but it's actually something they've found, and you've got like pictures of and stuff. But it's not the same thing. It's just what they called the Black Pyramid, but it was an actual real pyramid that somebody's daughter was buried in or something. One of the pharaoh's daughters or something. It was built for his daughter, and maybe it wasn't completely finished, or I can't remember. Once I found out it was real, I was like, I don't want to read this anymore. Kevin Thomas, of course. So it's like a country club for cryptid. That's exactly, I think, what's going on here. Let's see. It says, isn't that also the storyline for an Aliens versus Predator movie? Or maybe what it was based on? Yeah, there was. Wasn't there like a pyramid or something like buried in this mountain? Yeah. Oh, Torchbearer Studios is comforting me by saying, don't worry, when my comic comes out, it explains Bigfoot, the Roswell crash, and where Nessie has been for decades. Well, now it's become must read. So that's Torchbearer Studios. All right. Well, I'm not going to send you guys home with just that. When I can show you exclusive footage of some sort of giant alien being found wandering the hills or mountains of Brazil. Let's take a look at this. Now, this guy could, maybe he lives in the pyramid. I don't know, but there he is. Looks a bit like puppetry to me. Moving very sort of, I don't know, is there a stick coming out of his back right there, holding him up? Like wait for it, right there. And then there's something coming off. See, maybe there's some sort of, but here he is walking. And he's walking some more. And you'll notice how crisp and clean. Ooh. Get rid of your blood sugar. Okay. So anyway, back to this. And so here he is walking behind this shed. He's got a hat on. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? He's got doesn't he not have a hat on? He has a hat on. Are you kidding me? He's got a hat on. But he looks like he's super tall. Here he doesn't have a hat. At least I can't tell. You can't tell because, of course, the photography is so excellent. But apparently he disappeared behind this rather ramshackle hut, and we've never seen him again. But they're saying this is a giant 10-foot alien wearing somebody's hat. So that's what's going on in Brazil. I don't know. I need to talk to Anna and see if when she was on her honeymoon in Brazil, she actually saw any aliens wearing hats. Exactly. Why didn't he wave? Citizen Ron says that's just cousin Enrico. He could be right. So basically, Citizen Ron is saying he wore a hat to protect himself from getting sunburned because they have big melon gray alien heads, right? So they want to keep the hat on. That makes sense to me now. Well, maybe he stole the clothes and the hat from the guy who lived in the shack, and he was going back there. Oh. Eric Boyd says he's just a gaucho standing on a cliff. Old Dirty Fatty says they're all alien to me. Oh, boy. Okay. Now, do you guys believe in dragons? Do you believe in Dragon Rage? Do you believe in Jimmy Reyes's Dragon Rage, which is also on Indiegogo right now? You can back that as well. Do you believe in dragons? I'd like to believe in dragons. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they existed at some point, maybe tied in with dinosaurs and then became extinct. I don't know. I'm not necessarily talking about fire breathing, but here we go. There's a little video. Now, this is in Ohio, I think. So I don't know. Are there dragons in Ohio? This is off a website called Classified Captures, or a YouTube channel that I'm stealing from. But they stole this from somebody else, so I guess it's all's fair in love and war, right? I don't know what to make of this, other than to say it's fake. There you go. Seen a dragon twice at night in Ohio. Why are there dragons in? Why would there be dragons in Ohio? Let's take another look at this. My gut reaction is it's probably a fake video, of course, but it's kind of cool, though. I mean, I will say this. The dragon is as fuzzy as the radio tower, so it's not like they, at least there's some consistency there. But this whole video could be like faked, right? And then fuzzied up. Okay, a lot of people are confused. Some are saying it's a baby gargoyle. Kellraiser says that's Mothman. Glad they used the red circle. I know he never would have saw it if they hadn't. Angela Curry for $10. Thank you, Angela. That's very kind of you. Says, hello, Aaron. Did you see the jellyfish? Aaron, hello, Aaron. Hello, Aaron. Did you see the jellyfish looking UAP seen in Iraq? I'll DM it to you. Please do. I'm going to Ohio this week and I'll let you know. Cheers. Say hello to Shelley. I will. Okay, Angela, you're on assignment. I want footage of dragons in Ohio. So clearly they're there or we wouldn't have this video. But it's a little dragon, right? I mean, it's not like a huge dragon. It's a little dragon. I don't know, what the scale would be here, how big a person would be, but well, maybe I guess a little person would stand maybe right there, right? So it's bigger than so what, maybe 12, 15 foot wingspan. That's pretty good sized, I guess. Absolutely. I'm great at parties. It's a furry dragon. Old Dirty Fatty, of course, it's the age-old question. Why does it have to be fuzzy? Why? I don't know. I think those are special cameras that you buy that are just specifically fuzzy. But I'm not going to leave you without more fuzziness. I've got more fuzziness to show you. Yes, I've got a Bigfoot video. Or do I? You tell me. It's funny how we can make everything out in this video. The tent, the chair, there's some wood over here. Looks like another, I don't know what that is, another chair. But this, fuzzier than heck. Let's see what he does. It's in slow motion, so it's nice. We can, see that he actually has no face. And now it looks like he's sort of transported from behind the tent to behind the tree. So maybe he's what do they call it? Phasing in and out, which is, one of our most logical explanations of why we can't get clear photos of Bigfoot, because they're constantly phasing. Now, Kellraiser, this is now he's got a good take on this. He's saying that's not Bigfoot, that's death. I think you're right. If he had a scythe, we'd be right there, right? Bear scratching his back on a tree. The question, though, is that's what I thought too, is that this is a bear. It's like, why wouldn't it be clearer? Of course, if you got a photo of a bear, then you blurred it up, you could say it's Bigfoot, right? Hooded Bigfoot, that's a dude. Interdimensional Bigfoots, of course, that's what we're talking about. Looks like a black ghillie suit. Yeah, the bear scratching back on a tree, absolutely. Yaya Terraces looks like black ghillie suit. I'm not opposed to that either, because we don't have any features on his face, none, which would feel like there's some sort of hood dangling down in front of it. There's no face there to see, which is the problem, I think. Now, Boggins is going to give him, Boggins and the Banshee is going to give him the benefit of the doubt and saying Bigfoot needs a haircut. It's all in his face. So true, it may just be has long hair and it's hanging down in front of his face. I'm less likely to buy that explanation though. Dale says it needs a heavy metal soundtrack. I think you're right. Yeah, how lucky to have the camera running right there and on video and on blurry video too. But despite all that, if you missed last week, and shame on you if you did, but let's watch this again because this is the scariest freaking video I've ever seen, and it's real. Oh my gosh. This gives me the freaking willies like nobody's business. That is one big alligator. Oh, and it's clear as day, baby. Look at that thing. Look at it. Can you imagine? I mean, I've seen gators underwater like that in Florida, but they were all like 5-6 feet long. This guy is over. He's got to be like 12 feet or he's just look at the size of his head. Horrifying. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a real video monster. There we go. Yaya, of course, is saying that he is smiling because he's happy to see you. I think he is. I think he's very happy to see you and looking to see you up close. That's a good explanation. There was actually 2 Bigfoot. The other one was filming, of course. Yeah. I don't think you want to go noodling in that river. Holy crap. Can you imagine? I mean, and the guy with the camera walking out there, what if he slipped and fell? I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh. Oh, it just gives me the willies just thinking about it. But I love alligators and crocs because they're like real monsters. And of course, on this show, we've shown that 25-footer in Indonesia that they got, that they didn't catch it, but they got photograph of. It's really nice, clear video. Whew. Humongous. I saw an 18-footer in a zoo in Australia, and I just couldn't believe it. We were in this zoo just outside of what's not Melbourne. What's the big city in Australia? Oh my gosh, Sydney. We're in Sydney, Australia, and we went to the zoo, and it was at a show. That's where I met Dale Keown. And so there's this big, huge pit, right? And so we're up on this little kind of sky bridge walkway thing where you walk over this pit, and you look down in the pit, and there was this giant freaking saltwater crocodile kind of laying against the wall in the corner, and it was an 18-footer, and it was a dinosaur. It was unbelievable. You can't really appreciate the size of these things unless you're right there in person. It was enormous. It was so wide and really cool. But you're right. Lord Hinson is absolutely right. They will swim in the ocean because they are saltwater crocodiles. Oh, came home to find one of those snakes climbing up my front door one night. Florida is basically Jurassic Park. That's what I liked about it. But it's also, you gotta be careful. I mean, you really do. If you're walking your dog by any small body of water, chances are there's an alligator in there that's going to come and eat your dog. It might take you with it. So you kind of got to be careful. But we had giant turtles crossing the road, and would have to get out of the car and help them because they get stuck in the curb. Everything was like, every turtle I found was like 12-inch shell, at least. They were gigantic. And I really kind of really enjoyed it. The alligator was in the guy's hedge across the street from me because his house backed up into nature preserve, which we also like to call a swamp. And so he had an alligator in his front yard. I mean, come on, you can't buy that kind of entertainment. So, but you got to be careful, you know. Look both ways before you cross your yard. You never know what's in it. Marcus Killergo, is the show worth a replay? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Man, we look at splash pages from Wonder Woman. My favorite, well, they're not all Marvel. My favorite supervillains. The Black Pyramid or Dark Pyramid of Alaska. Mortimer Wilson Jr., the artist you've never heard of but wish you had. I mean, let's face it, true believer, this one's got it all. Justin Side wants to know, have you read Doug TenNaples' Bigfoot Bill? I haven't. I'm familiar with it. I know Doug a little bit. I've met him a couple times in person and just, you know, some idle chit chat, but I don't know him well. Jerry Roscoe says Florida is all the reptiles and meth you can get. There's some truth there. Andy Dalif, Florida animals and Florida humans are both scary, and there's some truth to that as well. But there were some groovy people in Florida, myself included, when I was there. I thought we were pretty groovy. Anyway, folks, we've had an enormous audience, so I guess that tells me that Ethan isn't streaming against me yet. So that's nice. I usually lose half my audience with about an hour to go on the show, but we didn't today, so that's great. I want to thank you guys all for joining me. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you guys for participating in the chat. I couldn't do it without you. Please hit the like and subscribe to this channel and this programming if you haven't done so already. I greatly appreciate that. Also, if you haven't backed Kit Carter Planet Doom graphic novel, follow the link in the description of this video. Take a gander, see if it's something you're interested in. Make sure you guys tune in, if you can, Graybeard Studio on Wednesday at 2 o'clock Pacific time. Trying to get a very special guest. We'll see if it, I'm not going to announce because it hasn't been secured yet, but regardless, it'll be a fun show as it usually is. Mondays is Comic Kings, I assume. And then Tuesday we have the Professionals, which I'm hosting right here on this channel. Probably do it around 4 o'clock Pacific time. That'd be 7 o'clock Eastern. So all this fun stuff coming up right here on this channel. So make this a regular viewing destination. Thank you guys all. Appreciate it very much. Have a great rest of your weekend and Sunday night, and we will see you soon right here on Aaron Live. Good night, everybody.